Hi, I'm Andrew Berry and welcome to At the Bench's YouTube channel. I've just got a brand new panel of solder. This is some 9-carat yellow easy panel solder. And a couple of little tips for you when it comes to having these panels of solder in. They're not cheap. As the gold price keeps going up, so does this solder in price go up. And you really want to be very economical with this solder. It's all too easy to cut a larger piece off than one you actually need, only to find that you have to file it off the piece once it's soldered. All a complete waste of money that is. So what we need to do first of all, because these panels all pretty much look the same, and especially once you have snipped off your little pieces of solder, those little snippets of solder will all look exactly the same. How will you be able to tell the difference between 9-carat yellow easy or a medium or a hard piece of solder once they've been snipped off? Well, the one thing that I like to do when I have a brand new panel of solder in, depending on what melting point it is, so a hard solder will melt at a higher temperature, a medium grade solder will melt at a medium and mid-range temperature, and an easy solder will melt at a lower temperature. Now, what I'd advise you to do is to get, if I can stop dropping things, is to get a marker. So you need to get something like, and it can be whatever you want, but it has to be a permanent marker, not a wipe off or a washable marker. And what we're going to do, we're going to color code our panels of solder. Well, why do you say that? Why do you say that, Andrew? Because it's simply got what it is, it's got easy solder stamped onto the piece of solder panel as it is. I'm going to come to that now. So you need to get a black, you need to get a red, and you need to get a blue permanent marker. And what you need to do, depending on whether it's a hard, medium or easy solder, you write on cover the whole piece of solder front and back with a color. Now, if this was a hard piece of solder, I would use a red. If it was a medium piece of solder, I would use black. And as this is an easy piece of solder, which melts at a lower temperature, I'm going to color it in blue. And we need to color both sides. So we can get the blue, and for argument's sake, I'm not going to do the whole piece for now because I'll be here for quite a few minutes. So let's just gently go over that first half like that. Let's turn it over and also do the back as well. So when this piece of solder now is on your bench or in a little tray or a little box or whatever you do, whatever you use to keep your solder in place, you can immediately see what melting point solder it is just by the color of it. So I see that on my bench. I know that is some easy solder. Just wait for that to dry. Which is great, very quick identification. It may save you a couple of seconds every time you pick up a piece of solder, but bear in mind how many times you do solder throughout a day, that could save you several minutes. Right, what we need to do next is to be able to cut a little fringe down the top of our panel as well. And this will help us cut off nice equal pieces of solder as we go along. So what I would do is get your panel of solder, get a nice pair of sharp tin snips, and what I would do is cut a fringe. And I am cutting roughly around about a 2mm. I'm going about 5 or 6 millimeters down. If you want to make them smaller, a bit narrower, you can do. Depends really on what you want to solder. And perhaps on the end here, I'll make them about a millimeter, millimeter and a half. So a little bit a closer fringe on the right-hand side. Okay, so that's the nice fringe that we have got on the end. Now, you can leave it at that for now, or what you can do is get a small little container like this, and you can cut off little snippets of solder to put in your container. So for instance, this is a nice small little plastic one. So we need to cut off little pallions, they're called, French pallions, little snippets of solder. If you came along and just simply cut the solder like this, you're going to find that those little pallions, those little bits of solder are going to go flying everywhere. The trick is to put your finger over the end like this and we will cut. Now, if you push down gently onto the end of the fringe, when you cut and take your finger away, the little bits of solder will just be touching and be sticking into your finger. So we can come along and just simply come along and cut, hold it over the container, and if I let go, you can see those bits of solder have actually stuck to my finger. So now I can put them into my little container. Like that there. And if you don't want to do this and you want to cut your bits of solder off as you progress through a project, fine, that's entirely up to you. But this is a really quick way of cutting off equal sized little snippets of solder. Now the advantage that you've got is that I know what solder is in my container because my little snippets are blue. So I know that is easy solder. Plus, if one of these happens to be lying on my bench, I know exactly what grade melting point that solder is. If it's a black piece of solder, I know it's a medium melting point. If it's a red colored bit of solder, I know that that is a hard melting point. So it enables me for good identification if I happen to be a little bit untidy and have several little bits of solder, especially if they're on your soldering block and you've got several little bits that you're working on, pieces that you're working on, you've got several little bits of solder, and then you're not quite sure, is that an easy melting point or is that a hard melting point? Because of the colour, you can see what melting point it is. And don't worry about the marker pen interfering with the flow of the solder either, because as soon as you put a flame onto this, that particular colour, that permanent marker will burn away within a couple of seconds and the solder will still be lovely and clean before it even gets anywhere near the melting point. So, very quick film. Color code your solder. As soon as you have it in, it's going to save you a lot of hassle, a lot of time, a lot of bother, and you can be guaranteed that your little snippets of solder are exactly what they should be. In this case, they're blue, easy solder. Simple as that. Please like this film if you've enjoyed it. Give us the thumbs up if you haven't done already. And don't forget, you can also subscribe to our channel. Click on the link at the end of this film, or alternatively, click down below, subscribe if you haven't done already. Also, click the little bell notification. That'll let you know when new films go live on At The Bench's YouTube channel. Like this film, share it with your friends. Love you too. Leave a comment down below if you've got any more hints and tips on solder, because I would love to find out what you guys do with it. In the meantime, my name's Andrew Berry for At The Bench's YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next film. Take care. Bye-bye.